He entered a boat and made the crossing and came into his own town. And there people brought to him a paralytic lying on a stretcher. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Courage, child, your sins are forgiven." I wonder, I know that there's a point that's proved there to the Pharisees and everything, but I wonder if, like so many people and like my personal experiences sometimes, if he knew that the paralytic, something of a sin of the person who was a paralytic was keeping them from feeling worthy of healing and restoration. I wonder if that was part of the reasons he said, like, your sins are forgiven and not just get up and walk, like, wonder if, because sometimes I feel like some of the things we believe about ourselves and our own unworthiness are the very things that keep us from receiving what God has for us, healing or blessing, because we don't feel worthy. And forgiveness as a general concept is different than really truly experiencing forgiveness, like and feeling the burden lift. Um, and even so, like maybe this person had no faith even to come to him for healing, but his friends had faith, and his friends had faith that Jesus would heal him. And Jesus knew that he needed that extra, your sins are forgiven. I don't know. That's a story I'm pondering to myself. I have no idea, but it would make sense in a way. Um, at that, some of the scribes said to themselves, "This man is blaspheming." Jesus knew what they were thinking and said, "Why do you harbor evil thoughts? Which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." And then he said to the paralytic, "Rise, pick up your stretcher, and go home." He rose and went home. When the crowd saw this, they were struck with awe and glorified God, who had given such authority to human beings. And so I think that in the same way, it makes me wonder even more now that I'm reading it, was there something about this paralytic that everybody knew was a sin? Because it says when um, they were struck with awe, right? Like and glorified God who had given. Whoop, my camera slipped. Such authority to human beings, but he's saying here, but that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. And the visual sign, the sign that this was true, was he told that man his sins were forgiven. And the visual sign is the man was able to get up and walk. I don't know. It's just interesting. As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the customs post. He said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. While he was at table in his house, many tax collectors and sinners came and sat with Jesus and his disciples. The Pharisees saw this and said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" He heard this and said, "Those who are well do not need a physician, but the sick do. Go and learn the meaning of the words, 'I desire mercy, not sacrifice.' I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Then the disciples of John approached him and said, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one patches an old cloak with a piece of unshrunken cloth, for its fullness pulls away from the cloak, and the tear gets worse." And I just want to say, because for the longest time I didn't quite understand this, but like I've seen it now. with something I did patch with there's a certain kind of fabric that shrinks more than others. And so it ruins both things. It's not like just the patch comes off, shrinks away. It like actually tears the other thing. And then you need an even bigger patch. But it did happen to me. Anyways, um, but people put new, oh wait, no, away from the cloak and the tear gets worse. People do not put new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the skins burst, the wine spills out, and the skins are ruined. And this, again, I didn't know, like, when it talks about like the fermenting process of the wine in these skins, um, the amount of, like, I think it's like the gases and all of these things, it has to be in a new skin. And then it's like it has to stay, like, that's the skin it stays in, like I didn't know. I've never made wine in a, sheep bladder before. I'm assuming that's what it was, but anyways, rather they pour new wine into the fresh wineskins, and both are preserved. And it's, I don't know, I guess I kind of wonder about that one, because just the both are preserved. I don't know. It makes me wonder a little bit about, like, if I really play out that metaphor that he's talking about, the old, like the Jewish traditions and the Jewish faith versus the new. And it's like, yeah, I have no idea really what it means. It's just something I take note of and I wonder about. Oh, I love this story. While he was saying these things to him, an official came forward, knelt down before him, and said, "My daughter has just died, but come, lay your hand on her, and she will live." Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the tassel of his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured." Jesus turned around and saw her and said, "Courage, daughter. Your faith has saved you." And from that hour, the woman was cured. And so this one, to me, is another one of those. So she touched the tassel on his cloak, and she said to herself, "If only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured." What she suffered from was one of those things that she would have to be considered unclean. She would not be allowed in the synagogue. She would not be allowed in any of these places, right? For her to touch the tassel and be healed doesn't mean that everybody would know that she'd been healed, legitimately healed. And with her type of issue, she was probably already, because it was more of like a sensitive issue. She was probably already very, what do you call it? Like, I can't think of the word, but where, like, your personal stuff is already public. Everybody already knows, like, embarrassing details about you, because it also says in another place that she'd been spent all her money on doctors, which was abuse at this time. Like, the stuff that they would have them do is just awful. Like, and was nothing. It was just a waste of money. And she's desperate, and she's, like, and she's unclean. She's not allowed anywhere, right? And so when Jesus stopped and told her this and said, "Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you." From that moment, like, he is acknowledging in front of everyone else, this woman is clean now. She's no longer unclean. She has been healed. And as so many people in these regions would be healed by him calling this out in front of the crowd, he has done a lot of the hard part for her after the healing. All of the recovery of everybody's opinion of things and everything have been, it's done. He has said it, Now, no doubt, as anyone who was persecuted for being healed by him, she would be one of those. But I like that he that he did that. And not only that, but maybe there was just a last little part of her faith that was afraid to fully embrace the faith. Like, I think I've been healed, but maybe she would have doubted. And I don't know, but one way or the other, he solidified it by stopping and turning and telling her and highlighting in front of the crowd that you have been healed.